This is Bailey, and she purchased a home as a first-time homebuyer by herself. Super proud of her. We're talking today about how the possibilities of buying a home by yourself on one income, because I did that before I became a realtor, and then Bailey did that with her house. So,
Yep.
Bailey, tell us the story of your home buying.
Yeah, so basically, it started out by I was saving up for a car because my car was toast, like on her last limb.
I remember that.
No AC, no, a lot of things were not going well. Anyways, that was so fun for her. But yeah, but then actually our broker at our real estate brokerage, because I'm social media coordinator at the brokerage that Emily is with. We were one time talking, whatever, and he was like, if I could go back, what I would do is I would buy a house, every year with an F loan. And then as he got the new house, he would rent out the first house and keep on or whatever, and make some shmoney. And I said, that sounds a lot better than putting my money into something that's going to depreciate instead of appreciate. And I said, I can squeeze out all the life possible out of this car, I think maybe. So yeah, so I was like, okay, yeah, I think I want to buy a house. But then I was like, okay, but how? Because
How's the question?
I ain't rich. So I work at a brokerage, like we obviously hear things, whatever. And I went to a first time homebuyer seminar actually to like take video for it. And that lender, was talking about down payment assistance. And a lot of the problem with down payment assistance is other lenders, they'll find a way to get their money out of you regardless, whatever. And usually that's like with an increase in like your interest rate. But this lender was saying like, no, this is like from the government. It's like there is no increase in your interest rate, whatever. In fact, I actually got a pretty low interest rate of like right below 6%.
Nice.
I got pretty lucky. Also, obviously, your credit score, plays a part or whatever. And I have a decent credit score. So yeah, so I really looked out with that. And, I was like, okay, like I want my cash also to be liquid. So even though I had the money for a down payment, I was like, obviously, if I'm living on one income, bad things can happen. I still have the bad car. I was like, I want my money to be liquid. So I was like, okay, so I'm going to keep that in the bank, in the savings account, getting all that fun interest, whatever, off of that. And then so I used the down payment assistance. So then after that, I was like, okay, Emily, let's go check out some houses. So yeah, and we checked out like probably 5 houses before I found mine. And it was really great having Emily there because like she was able to point out things because obviously when you're a home buyer, you're like, okay, like this is so cutesy. I'm like, the bad thing about me too is I love a home with character, which means like, oh, like some rough looking floors a little bit, some scratches, some dents in the wall. Or like some texture in the wall. And so Emily was like, okay, Bailey, let's look at this hot water heater. Like she is in the basement, in the crawl space. We saw one that was like in the crawl space, had a gas leak.
Yeah,
or smelled like gas.
You definitely looked at houses with stars in your eyes. You had the little Disney sparkles on them.
Yeah. So
but yeah, that's one of the things that I can do as a realtor is point out the problems that you might not see at first love.
Yeah.
Because when you first walk in, you see it, you're in love with the house. When you come back the second time, you're under contract, you're all stressed out. Then you notice the stuff. Mm-hmm. So I kind of help point it out before then. So you go in with understanding of the concept.
Yeah. And even the house that I end up having now, like Emily still like brought up all like I was like, I'm buying this house. And Emily still was like, okay, now Bailey, let's just look at this too. And I was like, no, like I think mine.
So what is something that you thought you knew to be a fact when you started home buying and then you found out it was not true?
When I was home buying. Okay, wait, I have an answer for home ownership.
Okay. Let's hear that one then.
Okay, so as a social media girly, social media videos will be like, your payment stays the same forever. But then obviously like taxes increase and yada, yada, yada. And that's not necessarily the case. Obviously, way less than like what rent would go up to. Mm-hmm. Than like, because like you're locked in at your mortgage rate and rent stays consistent with mortgage, payments. So yeah, but still, it's just like make sure there's still a little leeway. Which luckily, whenever you get approved, like pre-approved, whatever, you can get up to like 50%, and then your loan officer will like talk to you. Your real estate agent will like talk to you and be like, hey,
Yeah.
Let's check the finances first, because like
Don't buy at the very top of your budget.
yeah. Like you don't want to be maxed out at 50%. Granted, I am maxed out at 50%, but I was like, okay, it's fine because I have all that liquid cash going on. I was like, if something goes wrong, like it's fine. And then obviously, like your income, that was another thing too. My dad would always constantly say, like, your income is going to go up. So like the little incremental changes in your payment, whatever, it's like going to go up. So just hope that you have a job that's going up more in increments than, because obviously you just be making the same amount. But
it's taxes and insurance that goes up. That's what changes on your
and insurance
payment. The interest rate, how much you borrowed from the bank, stays the same.
Yeah,
it's just taxes and insurance. So what is your favorite thing about being a homeowner?
Oh my gosh, freedom. No.
Toby is free.
I was living with my dad before to save up all that lump sum of money that I have. And so, yeah, let me tell you, the mental health was struggling a little bit. But now, I live with, granted, if you buy a townhome, it's like a little different, but like me, and I do live kind of close to my neighbors, whatever, but it's like those walls, you can't really hear anything. Like I can, sing my karaoke at night, play, watch my movies, and no one's like, turn it down, like you're being too loud. Granted, my dad would never do that, but my dad's a little old and deaf. But
if you decide you want cereal at midnight, you can just go out and have cereal. And nobody's like, what are you doing?
No, that's actually, I was thinking about that literally the other day. I was taking a shower at like 2 a.m. And I was like, before, like, at my dad's house, like the bathroom, because our upstairs bathroom was a little messed up, whatever, it didn't really work, like taking a bath with her because it leaked. So I was like, if I wanted to take a shower at 2 a.m. at my dad's house, I would be like, I would not do that because I would be worried about like waking him up and yada, yada, yada.
Of course, that's a benefit of living alone, not necessarily homeowner. Because if you had someone else in the house, you still have to be considerate of them.
True.
But it is really fun.
But at least then, if you're like getting rent off someone else, well, like, okay, well, you're making some money. So, I wasn't making any money by.
So what's your least favorite thing about being a homeowner?
I do have to say, they don't tell you that in South Carolina, at least in the summer, you're cutting that grass once a week. Okay, and if not, you're getting a violence ordinance.
What? A violence ordinance?
No,
violation.
And
you're not being violent.
What is this word? I can't remember. It was too obnoxious. I was like, y'all are doing way too much. An ordinance violation.
Ordinance violation.
There was something more to it though.
Yes.
There was another word, and I was like, y'all are doing too much. But I was like, I just moved in. I've been here a week. Let me get a lawnmower, y'all. Let me figure that out first.
But that's just because you're in city limits.
Yeah.
See, I'm not in city limits, and my grass can grow as long as it wants, and nobody says a word because I have no HOA, and I'm not in city limits.
I do also have trash pickup, so let me count my blessings. I do live 5 minutes away from my favorite coffee shop in the whole entire world, and my neighbor is a gas station. And y'all might think that's a bad thing, but it's my favorite thing ever in this whole entire world right now. When I want to cut that grass. Hello, I'm here to fill up my gas tank.
I did have that trouble the other day. I was like, I needed gas to finish mowing my lawn, so I either had to go to the gas station while I was like all nasty and icky and sweaty, or just wait for another day to finish mowing my lawn. So I can see the advantages of that.
Yeah. Literally, I wouldn't have to. I do always drive over, but if I wanted to, I could just walk over my work boots and be like, "Hey, y'all, don't mind me. No car, just my gas can."
I was thinking that was my downside of being homeowner too. So if the mowing the lawns is a really big deal, then you can always buy a townhome, and then you have no lawn maintenance.
Yes.
Less room for plants, which is a problem for me.
That's what I've learned. There's always a way. There's always a way, whether it's like financing, inspections, credit score. Like there's a way. You just gotta have a realtor that's willing to get their hands dirty. And as a gardener, metaphorically and literally.
I was under a crawl space the other day. It got filthy. It was fun though. And we proved it was not a problem, and we saved our sellers a bunch of money.
I'm still shocked by that.
Totally worth it.
You could not pay me enough. You could not pay me $1 million to go in a crawl space. In fact, no.
It was definitely a crawl space, not a walk space, but it wasn't like a claustrophobic, no space over my head crawl space.
If could be a spider in there, you will not catch me.
There was definitely spiders.
You will not catch me in there. There could be a snake in there. You're not catching me in there. If there could be a rat in there.
Rats, I'm out. Snakes, I can do. Insects, I can do.
There was probably a rat down there. There could be people down there.
No.
I'm so scared.
There could be dead bodies down there.
No, not in this house. It was a clean crawl space, which is exactly what we told our buyers. So as a first-time home buyer, what is something that a realtor was able to help you with that made the process easier, do you think?
Okay, so I have to say, personally, obviously, like Emily, love her. But like, you want a realtor with connections. You don't want someone who's just gonna be like, nah, like you got this, like go on, like have fun, you know, kind of let you figure it out for yourself. And I remember the first home that we toured had like it was like a war. It was an offer war, okay? And unfortunately, I did lose, not because of Emily. Emily told me like, "Listen, Bailey, like honestly, like this isn't," and I was like, "Girl, I don't really have that much money, so it's fine."
I want to say there was like over 10 offers on that one.
That one was like
it was crazy. They priced it way low to get a ton of offers, and it worked.
Also, moral of the story too: if you do lose out on a home, you thought like that's my home. Odds are you're probably further down the road, you're probably going to find a house that's even better than that one, which was my case. Thank the Lord that I did not get the house, because my house now is my dream. So yeah, and it definitely did not have as much going on like problem wise as that house, whatever, or like renovations as that house, and way better location. But anyways, yeah, so I remember for that house, whatever, we were in like a crunch. I'm pretty sure you were like, I can ask my inspector, whatever, we had like a contact, whatever, I can like, talk him, and maybe I think it was like weekend was the next day or something, or it was a holiday, and he literally like texted him, was like, can you do this house? And he was like, oh, I'm not, like I wasn't going to. He was like, but for you I will. So like there's one thing, whatever. And then also this house that I bought, whatever, I remember there was it was like we were already under contract, and we were doing the check through just to make sure everything was like all good and whatnot, because obviously you can like ask for, what's it called, fixes, repairs, repair requests, whatever. So we're making sure everything was like good before we actually like signed on the dotted line. And the window wasn't closing, and you were like, let me call the seller, whatever. And I was like, oh dang, because Emily's sweet. Like Emily's like sweet, whatever. But whenever I heard her on that call, I was like, oh, she's not playing around. She was like, yeah, you need to get like not in a mean way.
Firm.
Like, yeah,
very
Emily
firm.
was firm. And yeah, I was like, shoot, like, yeah, that window's getting fixed. That's all I know.
Because I think they were supposed to have already fixed it.
Yeah.
And then they hadn't been fixed.
And kind of like, gaslighting us a little bit, being like, yeah, it was already fixed. And I was like, well, us too were trying to like pull that window down. It was not going. And foreshadowing, I have a but it's okay. So fun.
That's quite the teaser to not tell that story. But yes, get a Ring camera. So final and most important question. Bailey, would you recommend me as a realtor?
For sure. In fact, I'm pretty sure I have.
That's true. You have.
I'm the best you ever seen, Fats. I'm the best there is.
But yeah, well, because I kind of mentioned, like I can always reach out to Emily or whatever. Like when I have home buying questions, like a relationship doesn't, obviously we're friends, but like the relationship doesn't end. Like even if you're like, you're just watching this video and you're like, oh, maybe I do want to use Emily as my realtor. You can always reach out to Emily. Emily's like super good friend, whatever. I'm also like not the only person doing one of these interviews, because that's how, how friendly she is, how good she is at making connections. But also Emily is her full-time job. Sometimes realtors will do like the half thing, whatever, which is completely fine. Usually it's like, they'll start off that way and then eventually go full force, whatever. But then also like Emily's all the time out here like learning as much as possible, go into like these builder information things, whatever. Also, if you want to buy a new home build, I feel like Emily's also like really like the person, because yeah, she's always going to all these like things, whatever, knowing like kind of like the discounts, because builders have a lot of incentives, and
different floor plans, what will fit people best,
types of builders, the communities, all different areas. Obviously, she's also just like very experienced. She's been a realtor for like a while. And yeah, always like learning. And obviously our brokerage also just lays at like the education, so it's important to know who your realtor is like brokered by, because even if Emily doesn't have an answer, like she can just call up on our our upper people and be like, hey, like I got a low credit score, or like our other realtors, because we got a pretty sizable brokerage, whatever, and be like, hey, like do y'all have a lender that can work with this this credit score, or whatever. And also Emily has really good connections, and that's another thing too, is like whenever you like wrote my offer, you were like, how do you feel about this? And I was like, I don't know. And you're like, okay, well personally, like this is what I would do. And I'd be like, okay, yeah. And I have a house now, so it worked.
Yes, yeah.
And I got exactly what I wanted.
Look at us. Hey, look at us. Look at us.
Out of like the house too.
That's
with,
always
like,
the
negotiations.
balance with offers, trying to make it good enough that the seller will accept it, but also get you everything that's really important to you. That's the balance, because you can't just not consider what the seller's going to want to, because then they'll just say no, and they'll sell the house to somebody else. So,
yeah, and the market too. Like Emily makes offers all the time. I remember, I think we were talking about like home warranties, whatever, and we were like, yeah, like we see a lot of people asking for home warranties or whatnot, whatever, and like how that affects your offer. And at the end of the day, I was like, no, I don't want to ask for a home. Like I want this home, so like I'm gonna make this as easy as possible.
Yeah.
So yeah.
Yeah, and they had to come down on the price of yours, right? Because it didn't appraise.
Yeah, it didn't appraise.
So we got even a little better deal.
But also, it was originally listed for 160, and with y'all's negotiations, I got down to 155,000. And you know, 5,000 isn't that much when it comes to like working into your mortgage. So I was like, okay, I'll take 155,000, and then obviously it didn't appraise. So
yep.
I was like, period.
Every little bit helps.
Yeah.
Right. Thank you so much, Bailey.
You're welcome, Queen.